Hi, my guest today is marathoner, coach, very experienced runner, also my coach for my first marathon, Ross Forman. Um, Ross, let me start by asking you how you got into running in the first place.
Sure. I was never really I was never really a runner. I didn't understand it. Like, what you can run a marathon for? A car will go 26 miles just to go. And I'm trying to think what the year was. It was about 15 years ago. I had a friend who was going to do the Chicago Marathon. And we talked, a couple days before the marathon. And he goes, so what are you doing Sunday? I said, I don't know. Yeah, I'm actually thinking I'm going to go to that marathon and uh, watch it, maybe take some pictures. Where are you going to be? I said, I don't know. I really haven't thought that far in advance. He's okay. So I want you to go the corner of whatever he said. It was corner was it was somewhere in Lakeview because he's right by the Chipotle on the east side, and I'll be there at approximately 9:32. Like, what are you talking about? He's no. So I want you to be there. I want you to have grapes. Put them in a bag. Take them off the rind. Don't be stupid, because I don't want it to start, taking them off. And goldfish, the little goldfish. And again, I'm still like, what are you talking about? He's, I'm running the marathon. And I'm like, you're running the marathon? He goes, yeah, I'm running the marathon. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll be there with your goldfish. So good. I'm thinking like, again, I don't know anything, so I'm thinking, no, wait, he told me like 9:32 or whatever time he said. It was like some odd time. And I'm thinking, what is he talking about? So I'm at the corner, the exact location where I have to be. 9:25. I'm like, okay, well, I should be here in the next 20 minutes or so. 9:30, 31, 32. There he is. I'm like again, I knew nothing about staying on pace or any of that stuff.
Right.
So sure enough, I hand him the grapes and hand him the goldfish, and he's off. I'm like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like, he knew exactly when he would be there. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should think about, like, I like to think I'm athletic. Like, I'm gonna try one of these marathons. So it's pretty stupid for me to think about it, but I'll try it. So the next year, I ran my first marathon.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you've run marathons. I think you've run out in Hawaii. You've
Yeah.
run the Tel Aviv marathon.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite?
Um, well, I'd say those two for sure in Chicago. Um, uh, Honolulu is very difficult just because of the
Yeah.
heat. Um, but I've done it 10 years in a row. So
Oh, wow.
I like
Okay.
it.
I'm used to it.
Yeah. It's like, I know, okay, you got Diamond Head up and down two times. And I know, an hour, 90 minutes in, it's going to start getting smoking hot.
Hmm.
But there have been times. I think the first year I ran Honolulu, it literally poured rain for the first hours, like, just not just a little drizzle, like, okay, I could deal, just like rain. Like, I remember you're going up Diamond Head a couple times, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go a little slower, just because I think it's pretty slick. Like, this road is pretty slick. Um, so that's a fun one. But I mean, how can you not say Chicago? I mean, with
Yeah.
all the fans, your hometown, it's a flat course. I mean,
Mhm.
is there anything better?
Yeah. So how did you get involved with team and training and, ultimately get into coaching?
Sure. So after I read my first one, I got bit on the running bug and ran again, and then I started coaching for uh, Team to End AIDS
Mhm.
when they run along the lakefront, much like uh, you know Team and Training does,
Yep.
and you would always see these people in purple running along the path. Team to End AIDS is always wearing red, and you see the people in purple, see the people in red. I knew people in both groups. And then one year I just said, you know what, I think I'm going to try to coach with team and training, see what that's like.
Mhm.
And that's been a great group. I enjoy both of them equally. Probably a little bit, I can't really say which one I enjoy more. Things about each one I like. I know more people on one than the other, but that doesn't mean I like it better than the other.
Mhm.
But I enjoy the um, relationship. And, there's nothing better as a coach than to see somebody, again, it doesn't matter which program, to see somebody on day one, you're like, wait, how is this guy or this girl going to go 26 miles?
Right.
I mean, there's no chance. Like in your mind, you're thinking, no chance. And sure enough, week after week, month after month, and then, you know, whatever, October 10th or whatever day in Chicago Marathon, you're like, wow, he ran 26.2 miles. So that's as rewarding as it is for the runner. It's probably equally as rewarding for the coach to see that.
Yeah, I can imagine that it definitely is. Uh,
Yeah.
so, we've unfortunately we haven't been able to run with team in training because of the pandemic and the lockdown. How has that changed things for you?
Well, as I look outside and I see mounds and mounds of snow, that doesn't bother me because I don't like running in the winter. Like I
Oh,
like the winter as an off time because I feel it's good for my body to recover. Um, so uh, you know, there's enough people, Coach Patrice and other people who, it's 4 degrees, let's go for a run. The person who was my coach, Katie, with uh, Team A, it's like you see on Facebook or somewhere, it's 4 degrees, but I'm gonna go for a 10-mile run. I'm like, no, that sounds horrible to me. So I don't do it. I do a lot more gym work during the winter. And then just I think that's a good recovery for the body because if you keep going, at some point you're going to break down, and
right.
I feel it's a way to recover and come back strong in the spring.
Are you, when you are running, when you're training for an event, are you more of a solo runner or do you prefer to run with a group?
Um, well, it's funny. It's like when I'm training, I prefer solo, but
Mhm.
race day, like if I'm running with somebody, great. If that person goes ahead or I go ahead, I'll find somebody on the course and just, hey, how you doing? What's going? And I'm sure I play people to no end because it's like, I run with people and it gets my mind off the fact that okay, well, I got 12 miles to go and I'm feeling like crap already. Uh, but if I'm running with somebody, I'll talk to them. That's been some of my most memorable experiences is running with people who I don't know at all. I mean,
Mhm.
there were two quick stories. There's one in Chicago. I had 1 year with team and training. I started early on in like that 4 to 7 mile range, and then when I finished, uh, I actually took a taxi along Lakeshore Drive at the end because I wanted to get to mile 20 as soon as I could, and it's the easiest way to do it, short of going on the L or something. So I get to mile 20, and I see a few of our people, and then I see this. Ultimately, it was a guy from Mexico, um, probably at the time 27 years old, very good shape. I don't know, 150 pounds ish, like, but shape as far as a runner. And I'm thinking, like, he is struggling big time,
Mm.
and, like, just barely walking. And I said, come on, let's go. And I took him. We'd run, we'd walk, we'd run, we'd walk, we'd run, we'd walk. And English was not the greatest. My Spanish is not the greatest. But we talked for the next 3, 4 miles. I'd be with him, and he knew I had some of the team training runners. He'd see me run off with them, then I'd come back to him, and sure enough, he finished and was super happy at the end and sent me a nice text. Um, I remember one year in Honolulu, I got to about mile 12, and I was feeling fine. And Honolulu Marathon, they have a lot of Japanese students running. Um,
Mhm.
it's either really impressive or it's embarrassing when you realize, okay, this guy's like 14 years old and he's, you know. So I get to mile 12, and usually they all have like matching team jerseys. You know, they're shorts, but they're, you know, they say, you can't read it, but it says something cool. So I remember coming behind, I think it was like three or four. I know there were at least three students, and they were just, you could just tell, like, okay, they've tapped out, like they're done already. And so I get, and they were on my right, so I kind of tap one. I said, you know, I give him the motion, like, come on, you and me, let's go. The next 14 miles, he did everything I did. I didn't know the guy. He didn't know me. Barely spoke English. Obviously, I don't speak any Japanese, but we talked about music. We talked about different things, like what he liked. When I would run, he would run. When I would walk, he would walk. It was like he truly understood, without me saying anything, that whole coach student concept. Like, okay, here's an older guy who's helping me. I have to listen and do what he says. And I mean, I still, you know, have a photo in my desk of him and I running together that somebody took at the finish, and thankfully sent it to me. But that was a real rewarding thing, because again, I didn't know him, he didn't know me, and it was to me, it was always entertaining. Like when we catch up to other students who he knew, and like be like, you know, they'd be looking like, how do you guys know each other? We don't know each other. He's just running with me and I'm running with him, and it worked for both of us, you know, emotionally, that connection.
Mm-hmm. It's like running has its own language.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, there's other people who, you know, as I say, I like to talk to people. There are other people who, like, you know, hey, how you doing? Good. How's your run? Okay. You're from Chicago. Okay, I think I'm going to move on. Be interested in my entertainment.
Well, that's, you know, that's something that I really loved about running with you when you were my coach, is that, you know, you come up and we chat, and it just kind of, you know, if you're hurting, if you're starting to get really tired, it really does take your mind off it. And
Absolutely.
then you realize, oh, well, I just, you know, ran that last mile and I wasn't hurting. I wasn't thinking about it. And it kind of, you know, it gives you that little boost you need to keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah, I try anything and everything to take my mind off the fact that, okay, well, let's see, I got probably 2 hours, you know, to go.
Mhm.
All right, let's see what I can do to entertain myself,
Yeah.
and keep going.
Yep. Um, do you have a night before the race routine that you follow?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, I'm not the funny thing is, like, so I'm not a pasta eater. I don't really like pasta. So it's like, I realized, okay, so there are times in places I have to have it. Like there's no other option. But I'll take Honolulu, for instance. Uh, I would always run with a guy out there who's run Honolulu for probably 35 years.
Mhm.
And our tradition is we would always do Denny's. They have the $4 all you can eat pancakes. And that, I mean, it'd be like, okay, I've had two full platefuls. Like, I'm done. Like, I just can't put any more in my body. I've had so much water. I feel like I'm, you know, 400 pounds. I'd probably have to run tomorrow to wear all this off. Then I'll go back, you know, obviously to a hotel, or to, if I'm at home. Um, I always lay out my stuff, you know, but like there's no chance. Like, I have my water bottle. Do I have my is my bib on my shirt already? Whatever it is, like I do all that, and then I just lay around. Like I'm not. Like always, people will say, you know, they'll catch me on Facebook or doing something at, you know, 10:30 at night or whatever. Like, are you going to sleep? I'm like, well, but like I'm normally a late night person, so I,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed at 8. I'm like, you're gonna go to bed at 8 o'clock? Like I just I stay up a little later, and then
Mhm.
just, you know what? I got to get up at 3 or whatever. I probably should go to bed now, and then I just, you know, lay
Mhm.
down.
Yeah, I
So
feel like if you change up your routine too much, you're not like, I know for me, if I try and go to bed really early, I'm just going to be staring at the ceiling
yeah, yeah,
and it's not going to work. So,
that doesn't work for me either.
Mhm. So, you know, if somebody finds out you're a runner, um, and says to you, I'm thinking about trying it, what advice do you give them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely try it. Get with the training program. Because I remember when I first started, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to run this marathon. Like, you go to, at the time, you go to a bookstore and get a book or something, or you look online. Um, I'm like, I think I should do this, or maybe I should do that, or can I just go to, Dick's for shoes, or should I go to Fleet Feet or somewhere like that? Um, but absolutely get with a training program. You know, Team training is a great one. Absolutely. There's a few of them around, but do it because I always tell like somebody who's, uh, bigger or heavier or something like, oh, I can never do it. Yes, you can. I mean,
Mhm.
there are people I've run with that are, you look at them, they're like, that's a 330-pound man. Yeah, he's not breaking any records, but it's the accomplishment of actually doing it. And I think that's where anybody who even remotely has it in their mind, like, run a marathon. Yes, you absolutely can. Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact I was never. I might have been athletic and have played sports, high school and college and stayed active, but I never enjoyed the training for a season of like, okay, we're gonna go run 3 miles. I'm like, this sucks. Like, I don't like that. That's not fun. But if you even think about it, it's a great bucket list. If you do it once, great. If you get hooked and you do it more than one, all the better.
And what would you say, aside from the obvious fitness benefits and health benefits, what would you say that running has brought to your life?
Um, Interesting question. Certainly a lot of friendships. I'll include that in there. But like you say, the health benefits, the accomplishment. I mean, I hear people say, "Oh, I could, I did this and that, and I'm gonna go for a 2 mile run." I'm like, okay, I've done that. They're like, "Oh, you've run 2 miles?" I'm like, "I've run 24 marathons, so yeah, I've run 2 miles." Um, I'm not really sure what the best answer for that is. I think friendships, the camaraderie of people of all um, complete diversity, old, young, black, white, gay, straight, you name it. I've met and have worked with um, different people through running. As I say, uh, uh, now he's a grown. He was a high school student in Japan. Well, again, I would have never met to a 30-year-old in Mexico, to everybody in Chicago who I've been fortunate to run with in different organizations. Um, I mean, to me, I think that's one of the biggest benefits of my marathon life.
Yeah. I think that was, a really pleasant surprise for me to see the diversity at the start.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you said, people of all different sizes and ages, and um, there's no the idea that there's a runner's body or an ideal runner, I think is a myth.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say there are some that you look at and you're like, it's probably a little easier. This guy's 25 years old, 100
Mhm.
pounds. He's 5'8". He's probably going to be. It's going to be easier for him than the 52-year-old who's 30 pounds overweight. It's common sense. But that doesn't mean. Like, I remember there was this one girl, one of my first years coaching. I remember meeting her 25 years old ish, somewhere in that range, maybe not even 25, and in good shape. And I always felt like she's just very slow for what I envisioned her being. And again, whether she didn't want to push it or that's just how she was. But again, you can't judge somebody by, okay, well, he's, he or she's 25, in good shape. So they're going to be, they're going to run 8-minute miles. You can't say that. But that's also to say, oh, well, he or she's really fat. They're going to be at 16 minutes per mile.
Right.
You can't do that. And that's the great things. There are some people, conversely, who are, a few pounds overweight and like, wow, he's really I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to maintain it, but he runs a pretty fast pace for 10 miles or whatever the
Mhm.
distance is. Um, so again, I think like you say, there's a complete diversity in
Yeah.
runners, which I think is a great thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah, and I think there's not a competitiveness. If you're an elite runner and you have sponsors, of course, you're very competitive.
yeah,
But I think everybody kind of gets behind each other.
absolutely. I mean, to me, one of my favorite things is in Chicago, uh, at 5 hours in, 6 hours in, and I'm usually in that last, training with, running with the people at the end, and you're on Michigan Avenue from I don't know where 25th Street or whatever towards Roosevelt, and you're running back and forth. And when we have our runners, I'm running with them. But when there's nobody around, I'll just see somebody like you can see. Okay, that guy's pretty struggling. Like he might only have 2 miles to go, but it's a lifetime in his mind. And I
Right.
always get with that person, run with them, or if it's walking with them and just motivate them. Like, dude, you're so
Mhm.
close. You literally are a mile and a half. And I'm sure you'll remember one of the things I always tell people at the end, those last, you could be halfway through, or you could be on Michigan Avenue in Chicago. The tail end is, uh, just remember when you get to the finish, you'll see the finish line. And it's the greatest thing. You run up Roosevelt, and then you kind of take that left on what's that street? Is it
Oh gosh.
Balboa?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's you run up, which again Mount Roosevelt, but it's
Yep.
like if you go any other day but marathon day, you're like that's like barely an incline, but
Mhm.
that's like you might
It
as well.
feels like Mount Everest on
Yeah, it's big.
marathon
It's bigger than
day.
Everest on race day. Um, so you run up it, and then you take the left, and I can't think what the street is, but when you take that left, you see the big finish sign. And what I always tell people, whether they're people I'm training or just random people I meet, and I'll always say this is just remember when you get to that finish line, you run through that finish line. You do not walk through a finish line.
Mhm.
I struggled for the last 5 miles or last 10 miles or whatever it is. But when you run through that, it's that whatever that energy, and you're like, yeah, I did it. I struggled, but I finished and ran through the finish line. So that's one thing I'll always tell runners, whether it's runners I'm training or just random people on the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels wonderful when you run
Yeah,
that finish line.
yeah,
You get a
yeah,
great picture too.
exactly. As long as you're not that guy who's like,
Yes.
that's your finisher pitch. Like, wait, you don't have to do your watch. If you're off by 7 seconds, like big deal.
Mhm.
Great.
Yes, yes, and I think that's something that I don't know if it was you specifically, but that's something that I did learn from my coaches. It's like, make sure your head is up, you're looking
Oh yeah,
good.
when you're finished, you want to be celebrated.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like it's your first marathon. You're like, okay, yeah, my finisher photo. It's like it's the worst photo possible.
Well, thank you so much, Ross, for spending some time with me
Yeah,
today,
of course, of
sharing
course.
your running story. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.